Good morning. My name is Jane Ann Covington. I live and work primarily in Atlanta, Georgia, but I work all over the globe via Skype. And people fly in to see me sometimes, and I have been flown to lots of places to help other people. I've been doing this now for 30 years full-time. The first 10 years before that, it was a hobby. I was trained by Gil Boyne, the American Council of Hypnotist Examiners. So I have specialized in, and I've been trained by a gazillion, because I've been to a gazillion trainings. I spent hundreds of thousands of dollars on improving myself, and I continue to do so, and I advise you to as well, invite you to. So I grew up in a very stressful environment. Anybody else do that? And I was highly anxious, and because of the environment, and because of the lack of support, there's lots of things that go with that. And as a result, I was fortunate enough, I sort of struggled through life, putting on a good face. We know how that is. And when I was 27, I was fortunate enough, I was still living in San Francisco in those days, and somebody invited me to a self-hypnosis class. And I said, well, that's something I haven't done. I've been working on myself since I was 17. And it started with Dale Carnegie course and how to win friends and influence people. My mother was taking it, and she says, I got a half price for kids. You want to go? And I said, yes. And that was the beginning of my lifelong learning. Today, we're focusing on anxiety, but I want to give you, and I'm going to actually do a demonstration. Given my timeline, it's going to be interesting. But before I do that, I want to give you a little bit of information. You have these handouts here. I have a book that I wrote on this. It's a self-study course, and it has scripts in it. And you can purchase it in there. But when I gave this training last fall, people said, you need a real training. So I've developed a 4-day training where you can really get trained, It's one thing to read it. It's one thing to struggle through it. But this way, when you get out of it, you will know what to do. And I have a 95% success rate. 95% of the people who come to me get over anxiety, don't learn to just manage it. And that changes their lives. You can imagine. So when I was 5 years old, all the kids say, what do you want to be when you grow up? And they say, I want to be a doctor, I want to be a lawyer. Well, actually, in our neighborhood, I want to be a fireman, I want to be a waitress, I want to be a teacher, I want to be whatever. And I said, I want to help people succeed. And the kids went, what? Because I knew what it was like not to have that kind of support. Now, if you had that, that's great, but not everybody does. Because parents certainly don't understand children, much less themselves, correct? Nobody goes to parenting school. So when I was 27, I went through this training, I spent a whole summer of going to different hypnotherapists. I went to different programs, and then I went to some individuals, and I did group stuff, and it just transformed my life. I had struggled through school. I determined to go to college. I'm the only person that finished high school in my family, much less college. I worked 2 30-hour-week jobs and went to night school for 12 years to finish. And after I went through hypnotherapy, my last 3 semesters, I averaged 21 units a semester, made all A's, with not much more work, because I got out of my way. Okay? And so, having said that, I know deep down inside what it's like. So I have great compassion, and I have made it my life's work to help people with this. And almost anybody, people come to me for all kinds of things, but everybody comes to me because at some level they have anxiety or depression. And here's a key. If you have anxiety long enough, you will become depressed. Does that make sense? Here's another tip. If you are anybody in here a perfectionist? Perfectionism always causes anxiety. How many perfect people have you ever met? Be honest. None. Right? We're not arguing about this matter, okay? So the point is that I tell my clients right up front, I'm not even going to see you unless you're willing to give up perfectionism and go for excellence. And most people, like the people in this room, your idea of excellence is going to be most people's idea of perfectionism. Okay, perfect. You just want to do the key is do your best. And your best is going to be good enough. And is it okay to make mistakes while learning? Yes, most people never hear that. I never heard that until many years later. Gil Boyne, who trained me, taught about this. He says perfectionism is just a waste. It's a waste of your life because it will age you. It will shut down your brain. It will make you go into that flight or fight or freeze stress response. And so it's something that we need to really deal with as part of it. I say if you're not willing to give that up, then I'm not the right person for you. I'm not the right hypnotherapist for you. And they're so exhausted, they go, well, I'll consider it. So, okay, well, come on in and let's get working. My first session is 3.5 hours long. I don't go for this 1 hour stuff because these are things that people have had for generally most of their lives. There are exceptions, but most people have had anxiety their entire life. There's an exception to everything. And so no matter what else they have, I'm going to show you something. And if you'll just look to see, this is the intake form. Just look at it, pass it around. It's 2 sheets. And you'll see that before I even talk to them, because I talk to them before they ever even come in to qualify them. Are they going to do their homework? Because I record the hypnosis sessions. I expect them to work on themselves. I'm the facilitator. Okay? I'm pretty scientifically based because people who are really anxious have a lot of insecurities and they don't trust a lot of things and they don't trust themselves sometimes. So I want to really give them empowerment. I want to help them understand who they are, how they are, what works. We all come with a body and a brain, but nobody gets an instruction booklet. You get it in this work, in this process that I have created and studied and learned. And because I step outside of the hypnosis box, I go to brain training conferences, I go to brain learning conferences, I go to, everything I can think of that relates to evolution of humanity, okay? And, of course, I've lived in San Francisco and Maui for 16 years, so I'm all very fluent in all the other esoteric issues and processes as well. But everything we do, it's just like we're modern-day shamans. Does that make sense? You probably heard that before. And so when we look at this, I grew up saying I was stupid, I was stupid, I was stupid. My brother said, they were 7, 8 years old, you're stupid and ugly, you're stupid and ugly, you're stupid and ugly. That was my belief. I made C's and D's growing up as a kid. I started school, didn't know how to read or write. Nobody would help me. I never even had a book. Nobody gave me a book. All we had was that big encyclopedia thing. Okay, it's just like a little beyond my comprehension. And but I kept moving along, and my parents didn't care that I got C's and D's. I cared. I was ashamed too. So I hid a lot of stuff. Anybody ever hide a lot of stuff? Yes. So having gone through that hypnotherapy just changed my life. And I started telling the truth. And once I told the truth, it set me free to do whatever I needed to do to learn it, to experience it, to change the perception of it, to change the meaning, and my whole life changed. My whole life changed. And I will be forever grateful to hypnosis. And I dropped out of graduate school in psychology because I lost faith in that, and I went, into hypnotherapy. All right, now, turn this over. So I began, and this is in this book too, it begins with a conversation, right? Of course, I have a website, and so people find me that way, or I get referrals, or doctors even refer people to me. Not that often, but occasionally. But people just hear about it. They don't want it anymore. They're sick of it. It's killing them. So I start out with interviewing them on the phone in a very short way. Like, I have them fill out that form. Are you looking at that second page? Is it still going around? Okay, keep it going. Just glance at it and keep it going. And so that I know when I'm talking to them what's going on. Because if I can't understand them before I talk to them, I'm not going to be very effective at communicating with them to even see if I can help them. Because if I can help them, I'm going to tell them that too. Okay? I'm not going to take anybody's money if I don't think I can really help them. Because I have a business and a reputation to uphold. And I'm committed to having 100%, because I'm a perfectionist at heart too, but I'm okay with 95%. And so I start out by interviewing them, and I get and I spend an hour, free, totally free. And some people, because I'm not exactly cheap, and in fact I currently am charging $250 an hour. And remember, my first visit's 3.5 hours long. We take credit cards, checks, and cash, or any combination thereof. And then after I get an understanding, then I can, because I've been doing it so long, I can give them a pretty good idea about how many sessions it's going to be. So they're either going to be able to be a client or they're not. I'm not for everybody. I'm not in everybody's price range. And that's okay, because I have a school and I train people and they learn it too. They just don't happen to have 40 years of experience behind them. But they have as much as I can give them in that 250 in class. And they can call me anytime they want to, my students. So after I interview them, let's say they come in, then we start and then I give them the real interview. Now, I have Joanne, who has kindly volunteered to let me work on her today. I spent quite a while yesterday, periodically, interviewing her as if it was our first session. Because I need to know who I'm dealing with and what I'm dealing with. This is not the psychic connection, right? And so, but it also, what I'm doing when I'm doing that is I'm helping people understand that it's stuff they learned because it was stuff that was going on with their family of origin. Now, have you heard of Bruce Lipton? Yes. Okay. So I would suggest you read his book again. And if you've never read it, read his book called The Biology of Belief. We start getting programmed in the womb. Put your hands over your ears, please, for a moment. Put your pens down. Put your hands over your ears. Hurry, hurry. Can everyone hear me? Can you hear me? A child inside the womb hears just that well. You can put your hands down. Now, they may not know the meaning of all those words, all that, but what about tone of voice? And you hear something for 6 months before you're born, it's getting already trained in there. So we're getting trained, we're getting prepared for our environment, and it doesn't mean it's a healthy environment, does it? No. So, when we do regression, because I do regression therapy, sometimes we go all the way back into the womb. Sometimes we go past life, but usually it's in this life. Because you don't really have to go back to past life, because if it's still going on, you can fix it now and it fixes forever because you're no longer doing it. You become the change agent in your family, even if it's something that you learned. And you get to become the model of what's possible. Okay. So now, after I interview them, which takes the bulk of the 3.5 hours, and they're also they're having these insights. Oh, yeah, okay, that's it. Instead of, it's all me. I'm the problem. There's something wrong with me. I'm not good enough. Anybody ever think that? I know nobody in this room thinks so. And so once we get that done, then I give them a very specific, less than 10-minute scientific understanding of what is hypnosis. I talk about the brainwave patterns. I write it down. I give it to them to take home. I'm big on take-home stuff, okay? I'm big on value, giving them value, giving them value. And what does that do for my credibility and trust? They know I'm on their side. I'm not here to do any scary, weird stuff. I'm here to help you understand yourself and to help you be the you that's possible, and you're great and wonderful. And they go, sure. But it's my job early on to hold that. And because I know that they aren't. I just know that. They just don't know that because they're filled up with all this other stuff. So then I do hypnosis at the end of the first visit, and it's basically just straight hypnosis. I teach them to relax. I do a long induction because people do not, can I make a wise decision if I'm all tense? It's not your best hour, is it? So I have to retrain these people to learn to calm down so they can learn. And it's all recorded, and I email it. Now I email them. No more CDs. I email them. I can, but And then their job is to listen to it twice a day. Twice a day. I said, golly, that's a lot of homework. Well, you've had this for 35, 40, 50, 60, 70 years, or maybe 12. I work with kids too. And all the way down to age 3. 3 to 83 or 93, whatever. And in that process, in teaching them all of this, so I teach them how to relax. I take them through a relaxation process. And what do you do if they can't relax? What do you do? Somebody give me an answer. You tense it up. You take it further into it and then let it go. And then they go, oh. So you don't, the thing, what we resist persists? You know that one. So I take them further into it early on and then let it go. And then I never have to do that again. And then I take them through a relaxation process. I have them imagine or pretend. I find out early on, are they visual, auditory, kinesthetic? Can they see any? I can't see anything. It's like, I can't see shit, okay? It's like black out there for me. Everybody said, well, you're just not trying hard enough. And then I found some teachers that said, don't worry, your brain knows what a tree looks like. It knows where you went on vacation. It can, remember that. And I went, okay, so it's been wonderful because sometimes I have clients come to me that have been to other hypnotherapists, and Lord knows why they even bother even continuing to try to hypnotherapy when people have told them that they can't be hypnotized. But don't we already know that we're already hypnotized? We do. Every person on the planet is pre-programmed from childhood, society, environment, your own self, right? Your misunderstandings, your understandings. So I teach them all of this. And they go, oh, okay. They're very surprised. But it makes sense. They know it. See, that's what I'm doing. I'm helping them know things that they know. That's just bringing it to light. So then I start giving. Now, I know that sounds counterintuitive to maybe what you've been taught, but after I take them through the relaxation process, and I know because I've interviewed them, I give them suggestions to begin to be willing to release these things. Because aren't we like a dog with a bone? What is it called? We argue for our limitations. So we begin to release. I release the need to be stressed. I release the need to be tense. I release the need to have anxiety. I release the illusion. I love this one. I release the illusion of perfectionism and go for excellence, doing my personal best. I put that on everybody's. Okay? And then whatever's on their thing that they need to release. And then I give them positive suggestions. And that's the first recording, and it's 20, 25 minutes long. I email it to them. They have homework. They come back the next visit, and it's 4 hours long. I have done it in 3 or 3.5, but only once or twice, especially the 3. And it's no hypnosis. It's all education. Because, you see, I'm not doing it to them. Am I? I'm helping them. So I'm going to, again, take the mystery out of it, take the fear out of it. So I'm going to teach them about their conscious and their subconscious mind and how that affects their body, how we create and change habits, patterns, and sometimes addictions. Okay? I have them take very specific notes, which is in the book as well. Okay? And with this book, you would, I don't have it here, but you would get 2 recordings of that training that I give, a DVD. I mean, not a DVD, a CD. But it's something to really listen to and learn. But you have the written thing too, okay? But I know a lot of people try to take shortcuts. But does it work to say, well, just change the way you're thinking? We know that doesn't work. That's the problem with cognitive behavioral therapy, is that that's all they're doing. I have people who come into me who've been years in training, but once I teach them the science behind it and how it works, I mean, I can teach this to scientists, to doctors, to psychiatrists, to counselors, and they never learned this in school. And so it's like that alone is worth the price of admission. Okay? Because it affects their whole entire life. Isn't the mind the common denominator? Right? And so then they begin to understand it's not a big mountain that we're trying to get around, over, and through, but we're really dealing with an unconscious, basically the subconscious is like a 2-year-old that could use a little re-potty training. And once they get that it's like a 2-year-old, we can teach a 2-year-old, can't we? That changes the whole thing. Right there. Is that interesting to know? Yeah. And so then I'm teaching them how it works and then how to self-correct. And when they're dealing with a 2-year-old, it's a hell of a lot easier to correct than a lifetime of this problem. See? So they get homework and they're still listening to the first recording, which is also conditioning for the hypnotherapy that we do, that we begin next, and we're going to do it right now. We're going to do a really speeded up version of it. And I'd like to invite Joanne to join us. So Joanne and I had a very interesting conversation because Joanne says, well, I've never had anxiety except for the last 6 months?
6 to 9 months.
6 to 9 months.
I thought of some last week.
Yeah. I've been thinking about you. And I would like to do more interviewing, but there's no time, okay? And you can see that I started out interviewing her and there's a whole list of the right questions to ask in the right order in the book and in the training. You'll learn that, and you'll do it. You'll do it with each other so that you get used to it. Because most people who interview do not get in-depth interviews. And it's amazing what you can find out. And if you don't ask that question, what's the question? Tell me more about your mother's personality as you remember it as a child. Because don't we know that most of how we respond emotionally as adults was programmed into us by age 3? Some people say 6, but the majority by age 3. There's another time the scientists say between 9 and 13 is a very influential time. But we're always influencing each other, ourselves. I mean, it's a lifelong process, okay? So this is what she filled out. Can you see all the little check marks? I'm sorry I didn't make them darker. Okay. Of course, she started out with this one little problem, you know. And
really is a power intake.
And then when she said, well, I don't really remember too much about my mother, but there are a few things. And then these are all the qualities that her mother had. And the ones that I circled are the ones that are in alignment with her problems. See? That she never put together. And, of course, she's done a lifetime of work, and she doesn't have any of those problems anymore. And then this is her father. And sometimes it takes longer to do an intake because what if many people raised that person? Right? Then you need to know who the influencers were. And she was in counseling for 2 sessions and for being too generous, you know. So you see, I'm knowing up front, and now we're going to do our first hypnosis session. Now, I just want to know how you've been doing since our first, you listening to the first recording to help you learn to relax and begin to release. Are you noticing that you're becoming a bit more relaxed? Are you relaxed more listening, having listened to that for the last 2 or 3 weeks than you were when we first met? Okay. See, I'm always looking to see that she's making progress. My goal is that every time she comes in, she makes progress. Okay? Now we have 20 minutes to do what often takes me 2 hours or more. Okay? This part, just this part. Now, when I get to this part, when I start doing hypnotherapy, those are 2.5-hour sessions. Okay? Now, I know that you know how to take yourself into hypnosis. So, since you've been practicing so well for the last few weeks, why don't you just take your glasses off? Fine. And I'd like you to just close your eyes and make yourself comfortable. And are you visual? Okay. I'd like you to imagine going to a peaceful place. You know how to do all this. And when you're completely relaxed, just let me know by nodding your head. Is that it? Okay. Now, while you're there, I want you to find a place where you can sit or lie down that's perfectly contoured to your body and your comfort, and let yourself go there and be there now. And relax even more deeply. Imagining that you have giant magnets beneath you, pulling any continuing stress or any remaining stress out of your body down into the earth. And outside your body and all around the globe is something called atmospheric pressure. And it's pressing against us at some 14 pounds and some odd ounces per square inch. Just relax into it and let it hold you. Am I going too fast? And normally I would be going a bit slower. I would be pacing myself with the client, right? So that's why I'm getting feedback. All right, now, the first thing I'd like for you to do is recall a time that you felt anxious. It could have been recent. It could have been yesterday. It could have been last week. It could have been 6 months ago. And when you're aware of a time that you felt that anxiety, nod your head. And really get in touch with that feeling of anxiety. Can you do that? And where do you feel it in your body, Joanne? Okay, in your stomach? That's your stomach. Stomach, upper gut? Mm-hmm. Okay, now, you can relax your hand. Now, I want you to let that feeling get stronger in your body and your mind. I'm going to count from 1 to 5, and just let it come up more and more because it will assist us in seeing if we can discover the origin so we can correct it. And don't try to think or remember. Don't think you know where it is because the mind's got a mind of its own, right? The subconscious mind. So, 1, let it come up more and more. 2, saying the things to yourself that make you feel that way. 3, turn up the volume on that emotion now. 4, let yourself feel it all through you now. And 5, let it be very strong. Open up the floodgates on that feeling now. Now in a moment I'm going to count from 5 down to 1. I'm sorry, from 10 down to 1. And on or before the count of 1, you'll find yourself, or at the count of 1, you'll find yourself at the origin or an early time when you had the same or similar feeling. Okay. So 10, growing smaller and younger. 9, arms and legs shrinking, drifting back. Just stay in touch with the feeling. Don't do anything else. 8, arms and legs shrinking, drifting back. 7, way back now to the origin of this feeling, or the earliest times. 6, way back now, younger and younger and younger. 5, 4, all the way back to the earliest times. 3, 2, and 1. Let yourself be there now. How old are you? Where are you? What's going on? Who's there? Your father's there. What's going on? You know something's going to happen because your father is how? You told me he was mean, right? Really mean? Could you speak up a little? He's behind you and he's watching. What happens next? Well, let's do it this way. Does this child need to be rescued from that situation? Or, okay. Let's go before this is happening. Okay? I want you to come back to today. I'm going to count from 1 to 5. Come back to your adult time, 27 years old. And 1 coming on up, 2, 3, is still in hypnosis, 4 and 5. Be your adult self. You okay? All right, we're going to go back in a moment this time, but this time you're going back to be just before that event occurs. Okay? But you're going back as your adult self. So I'm going to count now as your adult. You're a parent yourself, right? Okay. And I want you to come back, going back now, just as an observer. 5, going back to that earlier time, going back as an adult now. 4, 3, like watching it on a movie. 2, and 1. Let yourself be there now. Can you see it? Go before the event. And how's that little girl doing? She's just playing. Is she having a blast? Yeah. Is she happy? Yes. Now, since you can do anything you want because it's your mind, you can rescue this child right now. Would you want to take her home with you? Imagine taking her out of that whole thing. Taking her home with you. And what are you going to give her? The love and support she needs? What else? What else did that child need to hear? In fact, I want you to imagine just whisking her up in your arms and taking her home with you and just holding her and giving her the love and the support that she needs. And what are you going to say to her? What messages did she either didn't hear enough of, or didn't hear at all? What are you going to say? You're safe now. What else? Did she hear she was smart? Did she hear she was pretty? Mm-hmm. What else? What was the message unspoken? Did she feel like she was good enough? So, is she good enough? Is this child a perfect child for her age? She's 4 years old. Is there anything wrong with this child? So I want you to tell her, I don't care if it's 5 times or 5,000 times, there's nothing wrong with you. And just nod your head when you're there. She's already gotten it? Okay. What else does she believe that's a lie? She can't get it right. Have you gotten it right lots in your life? Yes. So you tell her, I'll help you get it right. Because she didn't have anybody to help her, did she? Will you always be there for her? Tell her that first. I'll always be there for you. Say it till she gets it. Say it to yourself or out loud. Mm-hmm. You can count on me. Mm-hmm. Now, let's take her on a quick little trip. Okay? Now, I want you to imagine that the two of you floating up out of your bodies. She's home with you. That other's back there in just a memory. And you take her on a little journey from then all the way up to today and show her how your life has turned out. Take all the time you need. Does she have a brilliance inside of herself? Yes. Is she a curious child? Did you know that curiosity is the most reliable predictor for brilliance? And I don't know one child that's not curious. Take your time. Just let me know when you've taken her through your life. You have already? Okay, good. How's she feeling now? Does she have any anxiety? No. So now I want you and her. Well, if she doesn't need to be afraid of anything because you've mastered many things. See, she has now an understanding of how her life is going to go. Does she feel secure then? If we go back to, take her back to when she's 4, and she has all this information in her head now, and she's safe with you. How's she feeling? She's not in that old environment. Is she more than okay? Does she feel pretty phenomenal? Yes. Now, what I would ordinarily do, and you can do this on your own, is that I would take her up to every time that she had that feeling and have her through her third eye and through the child's third eye download it into the next child and the next person and the next event as she aged. You see? So that everyone is fixing the whole thing. Okay? And then you take them all with you to the next one, and the next one, and the next one, and the next one. Okay? Can you imagine that just magically happening? And how are they all doing? Okay. Any anxiety? Not at the moment. Any reason to continue to have it? Given all the resources that you now have and the truth that you're telling yourself? Now, do you have any problems? Ask me if I have any problems. I haven't had a problem in years, but I have opportunities and challenges. That's all you've ever had, isn't it? You make mistakes? Ask me if I make mistakes. I haven't made a mistake in years, but I do have lessons to learn. And haven't you learned a lot of lessons over the years? You going to write your book about that? Yeah. So how are you feeling right now?
Calm.
Calm. And how's our little girl doing? Good. Okay. Now, you know that feeling that you were carrying around inside yourself, that anxiety feeling? Can you get back in touch with that? Is it still there? Still in your gut? When you focus on it? You're trying to make it come? It's not coming? All right, I'm going to give you a little hint. Usually they do still have it, okay? If they don't, that's great. It's gone, okay? But, well, just for the hell of it, recall a time when you had it. And bring it back just for the purposes of this experiment. Can you feel it? Still can't feel it? Or you can? Only a little. Well, a little is enough for us to work on. I want you to get in touch with that feeling because everything in the universe is energy, right? And you remember we learned that when I taught you all about the brain, and we learned some quantum physics with that too and all that. Yeah. And so I want you to get in touch with that feeling and notice if it has a color, a shape, a size, as well as location. Does it? Can you imagine it that way? All right, I want you to, in your mind's eye, imagine reaching inside and very gently and lovingly take that out. It may come easily. You may have to be gentle but firm and work it loose. And imagine lifting it out and placing it out in front of you. And just let it be suspended. Are you willing to let it go? And let me know when it's been done. How are you feeling inside? Clear? A little bit empty. Okay, let's fix that. First of all, I want you to imagine a friend or an angel or any figure you choose coming and taking that stuff out there to the farthest edge of the universe to be recycled for better use, because it's just energy. Can you imagine that? Now I want you to imagine a beautiful light shining down from the sun like a spotlight on a stage, a beautiful golden white light. Can you imagine that? Step into that light now and let it shine, starting there in your gut, and let it fill you and make you whole again. And let it extend to all parts of your body and all through your mind. Take all the time you need and just nod your head when you're there. And from now on, you're going to remember that you're no longer having to be run by a 4-year-old. Can you see how you've been run by a 4-year-old your entire life? Unconsciously? Yeah? And your adult self can step up now and give her all the love and the truth. And you can remind her that she's safe now, that you're there, always there for her, that there's nothing wrong with her. She's more than wonderful, isn't she? Yes. And that she's brilliant. And you'll always be there to protect her. So how's she doing? Is she off playing someplace and having a good time? And how are you feeling right now? Yeah. And when you encounter people who are like some people that we've talked about, you have this resource within you to remember that they have their 2-year-old inside of them, and that's what you're reacting to. They do that to all kinds of people. And you just happen to get in the way. If a 2-year-old did those things to you, would you take it seriously? Remember the phrase that I taught you yesterday about if somebody, because she's too generous and that's her problem? Yes, it's about if so she gives too much and then she gets hurt. So I taught her to say, I hear what you're saying. I have faith in you that you will find a way to get this resolved. And I'm not a resource for you. Now, it doesn't mean she can't give, but she is going to practice this. And that's the end of this today. And thank you, and we are out of time. Come on up. Open your eyes when you're ready. And let's give her another round of applause.